All right, folks, let's go to my hometown of Houston, where the family of a 27-year-old man was shot and killed by Houston police during an attempt to execute an arrest warrant. They say the officers never identified themselves before they opened fire. Taft Foley, he's the attorney for Charion Lockett's family, says the released police body camera footage of the February 7th shooting supports their belief that Lockett feared for his life in the moments before he was killed. But police say Lockett was the aggressor, firing at officers while running from his car towards the front door. Folks, do we have the video? All right, let's roll that, and then we're going to talk to Taft Foley.
He's down. Partner, you good?
Partner, get over here. Cover.
I got him. He's down in the doorway.
Down the doorway, guys. Hey, Devin, come back over here.
I got you. Moving. Everybody good?
Yep. I'm gonna move the bike. I'm moving the bike. Yeah.
Yep.
Who did you shoot at?
He shot at us in the Lincoln.
He joins us right now from Houston. So Taft, so set this up for us. What happened here? Why were they pursuing Mr. Lockett?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. I'm a big fan of you and of the show. Roland Martin Charion Lockett was a graduate of Sam Houston State University. He had a master's degree in criminal justice and was studying for the law school admissions test at the time of this incident. To set it up, Mr. Lockett was accused by a young man with a very long rap sheet of aggravated robbery. The police, in their pursuit of him as a robbery suspect, they swore out a warrant for his arrest. The first judge rejected that warrant. The second judge signs off on this warrant. Mr. Lockett gets a phone call at 9:30 in the morning. He explains that he has no idea what these charges are about, that he would like to speak to a lawyer, and that he had planned to turn himself in. Less than an hour later, Charion Lockett was dead in the doorway of his house. And if you don't mind, Brother Martin, I'd like to comment on what you just showed on your show.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just showed your viewers what's tantamount to a drive-by shooting. You have an unmarked car with a plain-clothed officer inside, stick his gun out the door. What you don't hear is him saying, "Stop, police. This is a police officer. Freeze, police." Nothing to that effect. He pulls up in a cherry red car. In Houston, Brother Martin, you know we call that a slab. He pulls up in a cherry red car, sticks his gun out the window, and shots are fired.
So hold tight 1 second. All right, so what I want folks to do is go to the beginning of the video. I want you to cue it up, turn the sound up. And again, we're gonna hear exactly what is said at the beginning of the video. Okay, press play. Sound up.
He's down. Partner, you good?
Stop. So that's the beginning of the video. Guys, roll it back. I need people watching this to understand here. Okay, I want you to now go to freeze the video, just cut to the video, don't play it. You see right here, folks, the door is closed. Door is closed, window is up, gun is drawn. So obviously, to Taft's point, nothing has been stated. There's no speaker or anything like that they can speak over. Now press play. What is HPD's response, Taft, to nothing being said? No, stop, police, nothing. And to your point, it's an unmarked car. You don't know who the hell this is.
Absolutely. That's a very good point, Brother Martin. And the answer is HPD is silent on that issue. What they did do was they put out a Hollywood edited video and sent it to the general public and expected the general public to accept their version of what happened as the truth. Their problem is that nowhere on the video does it show our client firing at the police upon arrival at the scene. Nowhere on the video does it show that officer identifying himself as a police officer before he sticks his gun out that window.
So this officer, this video we're seeing right here, was that the only officer who fired shots?
No, there were several officers who fired shots. This video is the first officer who arrived at the scene. After this officer fires his shot, other officers fired their gun, and Mr. Lockett was shot and killed. He was hit several times by police gunfire. Their narrative in the beginning was that our client walked up to a police car with his gun drawn, shooting at the police, which doesn't make any sense. I want to remind you that this kid had a bachelor's degree, a master's degree in criminal justice, and was studying for the bar exam.
First, did he have a gun?
Yes, he did. And let me talk about that. He did have a firearm. And as you know, as a resident of Texas, in Texas, you can have a lawful license to carry a firearm. And
well, actually, didn't they just also change the law? You don't have to have a permit.
You don't even need a permit to own a license, to have a firearm. And to add insult to injury, this brother was sitting in the driveway of his own home. The average citizen in America who had a license or a permit who's sitting in the driveway of their own house. They look up, they see a red car pull up on them and a gun being drawn on them.
So hold up. So hold up. He's sitting, what, driver's side or passenger side in his driveway?
He's sitting in the passenger side of the car in his driveway.
So what, did he just return from somewhere or was about to go somewhere? Do you know?
Well, according to the mother, he sits in his car from time to time.
Okay.
He was studying for the LSAT, and every now and then he would sit in his car, meditate a little bit, read a little bit.
I get it. I mean, look, when I get home, I can finish a phone call. I might be sitting in my car 15 minutes, sending text messages. So he's sitting in the passenger side. He has a gun, which you can't have in Texas. All of a sudden, red car pulls up. We're seeing it. Nobody says a word. Next thing you know, shots fired. Obviously, he's reacting. Now, guys, if y'all have queued up the other body footage, I want to play this because I'm just trying to see what angles do we have. Roll this one, then we come back to Taft.
Oh, shit, stop.
Yep, get back. He's down by the front door. Down by the front.
Yes, freeze the video. Okay, Taft, how many cops were on the scene?
I think the last count is that there were 7 police officers on the scene of this attempt to secure the arrest of our client. Another thing compelling about
Hold on. A client who they talked to who said, I will turn myself in.
Absolutely. And a client who has no criminal record at all whatsoever. This young man hadn't been arrested for stealing a pack of gum at a Walmart. Nothing at all whatsoever. And to add insult to injury, Brother Roland, they never attempted to interview him before procuring this warrant. If you live in Bel Air or River Oaks in Houston, Texas, and some known criminal accuses you of committing a crime, the police will interview you. They will sit you down, talk to you, and determine whether or not you committed this before trying to secure a warrant.
Wait. So he's accused of theft with a weapon?
Yes, he was accused of aggravated robbery.
Okay, so he's accused of aggravated robbery. I'm piecing together. He's accused of aggravated robbery. They don't interview him. They go get a warrant to arrest him but it hasn't even been established if he actually did it.
Absolutely not. Brother Martin, the Fourth Amendment requires that a warrant be sworn out based upon probable cause, right? You have to swear out this warrant. A judge has to sign the warrant. There has to be sufficient probable cause for a judge to sign their name on this warrant. Now, remember, the warrant that they were actually executing was their second attempt. They tried the first time to get a warrant, and a judge rejected that warrant. If you look at the two affidavits that the police used to swear out the warrant, they contain conflicting information. One warrant has the name of some guy who has never been identified. If you look at the last page on both warrants, you'll see that the name of the affiant, the person who signs it, their signatures don't match on the first warrant and the second warrant. So somebody forged a signature on this warrant, in my opinion, whether it was the first warrant or the second warrant. There's just lots of problems that happen with this case. And one of my important issues is that young Black men in America are not given the benefit of the doubt with respect to these things. We have to deal with police shootings, but we also have to deal with a corrupt system and run the risk of being victim of police officers who are not honest with respect to even the basic police principles, which is swearing out a warrant in a case like this.
Larry, again, here we're having this conversation 2 days after Joe Biden stands before Congress and talks about fund the police and how more resources, more training. And here in this case right here, Taft, when did this shooting take place?
I believe the shooting took place on February 7th.
You look at this case right here. I mean, the video clearly shows no attempt whatsoever to say, police, stop, put your hands on it, nothing. This reminds me of Tamir Rice. He comes out the car, guns blazing.
When it comes to young Black men, they shoot first and they ask questions later.
Larry, go ahead.
Or it's not supposed to be, Roland. But these stories, every time you refresh social media or watch TV, we're seeing the same stories. And as a father of a Black male, these stories frighten me beyond belief, right? Now, forget about my own personal safety, but the safety of my son and family members, et cetera. And I want to know, I'm curious of what elected officials, Black elected officials in the metropolitan area are saying. Because once again, this keeps happening. And it's not like it's weekly, it's daily. And like most people watching this, I'm sick and tired of watching, Black folks be killed by law enforcement for simply existing. Now, we have another gentleman, we were just talking about the Supreme Court. We have a young Black male whose life was snuffed out, who possibly could one day could have been, been a nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court. We don't know in terms of what path his life would have taken him down. And once again, we have to mourn the death of another talented, brilliant young Black male who didn't deserve this. And then we need to hold those officers and even obviously the judge who signed the warrant. We need to hold people responsible because we can't continue to allow this to happen. And you can't talk about democracy or issues about law enforcement, increasing funding for law enforcement when Black people are still catching hell in America.
Reese, the thing about this that is so galling is all these people who talk about, the NRA, the Second Amendment. I mean, that don't work for Black folks if you packing. I mean, you definitely guaranteed to get shot by cops. And then for them to say here, he was firing at them. I'm sorry. Where's the footage?
Right.
Where's the footage? Out of all those cameras, surely one of them would have picked up gunfire coming from him. Reese, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing about it is you don't have Black folks out there hunting the way that police hunt Black folks. This young man was not waking up deciding he wanted to get into a Guns of Navarone style shootout with the police. In fact, he was trying to figure out what was going on with the charges and was willing to turn himself in. That does not sound like a person who wants to go off like Cleo and set it off. He was not in the process of robbing a bank. He was not in the process of getting out of a hostage negotiation situation that's going to be hopeless and he was going to never see the outside of life again. He was a person who was probably facing very flimsy charges, as his attorney pointed out. The first warrant was even dismissed, and they probably trumped up some more shit to sit up there and get a second warrant. But this was not a life or death court case or charge that he was facing. So there's no logical reason why he would decide to engage in a shootout, but for believing that his life is in danger. And I'm telling you, if you roll up to my house in a cherry red car with your gun out, if I am strapped, and I ain't gonna say whether I am or not, I'm not gonna incriminate myself on TV, but if I were strapped, then you would have we would be in a situation, because that looks suspicious in and of itself. So unfortunately, this young man, his life is lost, but we really have to figure out, why these cases involve, and we just talked last week on your show, Roland, with another case, Mr. Moreno, where 20 cops show up to execute a warrant. What is the situation? Y'all don't have nothing else better to do than show up with 5 police cars, unmarked cars, 20 cops, guns blazing, to execute these warrants? It sounds to me and it looks to me like they already have a preconceived notion about how it's going to turn out, and they're not there to arrest somebody, they're there to kill.
Taft, look, you got Black Mayor in Houston, Sylvester Turner. You've got other African-American elected officials. What are political leaders saying in Houston?
Well, there's some outrage. The NAACP has sent a statement to the district attorney's office. We have organized with other leaders in the Black community. The young man on the DA's task force for civil rights is an African-American who's a very progressive person. I know his family. And so there has been some outrage on behalf of the Black community. I can't get over the fact that there's 2 systems of justice in America. One that applies to suburban America and another that applies to Black men in our communities, in our neighborhoods. There is not a presumption of innocence when it comes to our children. And as the brother just mentioned on your show, we have to have that talk far too often with our young Black men about what to do when the police pull up. We have to teach them to act and perform a certain way, because there is a life-threatening risk that you will not survive an encounter with the police in America. When you combine the threat of that encounter with the shoddy police work that took place in this case, it makes you even more fearful for your safety, let alone your rights as a Black American in this country. Something has got to change. This family is mourning. They will never get this young man back. But what we will do is we will fight with everything that we have in us to get this young man the justice that he deserves in this particular circumstance and situation.
Greg, that's the point that I'm always making in these cases. You can't come back from death.
No, you can't. Roland, I mean, we've seen it over and over again, and thank you, Attorney Foley. And again, this is why we have to support Black Star Network. They perfected it. These bastards have perfected it. It's taken them the better part of a century, but they perfected it. Their method now, as Rishi said, hunt, wait, when they die, lie. And so, Counselor, I'm thinking about this North Belt crime suppression team. They're organized gangs now, federal and local. They do these task forces. That's their hunting crew. I'm wondering if that can be dismantled, and we had to fight, like I said, with everything we can. The perfection in these bastards, these hunters, these patrollers, that they have now moved to camouflage. Because if you were going to shoot some deer, you would wear camouflage so the deer don't see you. Their camouflage is called plain clothes and unmarked cars. So now what can we do to address camouflage in the form of unmarked cars and plain clothes? And the bastard who rolled up with his little manhood in his hand and started letting off shots, I'm assuming that he is on administrative leave, paid or unpaid. What can we do not just to have them lose their jobs, but perhaps drive them out, in fact, of the municipality, perhaps the state? Because there is no justice for someone who has been killed. And like you said, Reese, I mean, now, I got my friends on the left who will say, I'm not a revolutionary because I advocate for voting. But to underscore the point you made earlier, what can we do to organize people so that they can intervene in this kind of policy debate? And voting is a tool by any means necessary. But quite frankly, if the only tool we have left when the patrollers show up in unmarked cars and start shooting is to blow their fucking brains out, then quite frankly, we are looking at the end, the disintegration of this society as we know it. So, Counselor, I mean, what's off limits at this point in terms of struggle? Can we disband these suspension, these squads, these teams, these task force? What can we do about the idea that they are in plain clothes and unmarked because that's their camouflage now? And what can we do about just being suspended without pay? What can we do to drive these people not only out of their profession, perhaps out of association with any decent human being?
Well, I think the first step would be to criminalize this behavior and to act on it. These officers need to face criminal charges if it's found by a grand jury that they engaged in criminal conduct. I'm looking at these two very different signatures on the first warrant and the second warrant. If somebody forged a signature on a warrant, they need to go to jail.
Yes, sir.
If somebody pulls up on you in an unmarked car and sticks their gun out the window and later you are killed because they didn't announce themselves as a police officer, well, then you need to go to jail. Brother Malcolm once said, I have no compassion for a society that's willing to crush a man and then penalize him for not being able to stand the weight. That's what's happening to brothers and sisters in the Black community. We are being crushed by a system that is inherently racist, that is stacked against us, that puts us against the odds, where cops can roll up in an unmarked vehicle, stick their gun out the car, shoot first and ask questions later, and then we're penalized for not being able to stand the weight of that same oppression. Now listen, we don't know who shot first. We know that you can't see our client on that camera shooting a single shot. But even if he did, when the police roll up on you in an unmarked car and you see a plainclothes individual with a gun stuck out the window, at that point, it is fight or flight.
Because you don't know who it is. I mean, we just had the brother out of Florida. This brother literally has been charged with attempted murder because the cops bust into his home. He had his gun. He fires a warning shot, then fires. He has no idea who the hell is busting into his house. And then they charge him with attempted murder. He's like, I don't know who the hell y'all are, just busted through my door.
And if he hadn't been a brother, they probably would have called to let him know that they were on the way. They might have sat him down if he was Caucasian and invited him some milk and cookies over an interview to find out whether or not he was guilty of the crime. In this case, Charion Lockett didn't even get the benefit of that. They never called him. They never sent him an email. They never went to his house to determine whether or not his word was more valuable than the word of this known criminal who accused him of aggravated robbery. But what they did do is they made several attempts to procure a warrant that we believe is based upon false, fraudulent, made-up information. They attempted to show up and serve out this warrant without interviewing him. They did not give him the benefit of the doubt, and as a result, this man's mother is putting him in the grave at 26 years old with 2 degrees, a week after he was studying for the LSAT exam to go to law school. Something has got to change. People need to stand up and fight against this type of injustice. We are all sick and tired of being victimized by a system that doesn't have the inherent protections built into it to secure our basic freedom and safety on the streets in America. If this happened to Charion Lockett, it can happen to your child. Because as we see, a degree doesn't separate you from being a thug or criminal in the eyes of law enforcement. 2 degrees doesn't give you the benefit of a phone call before a police officer shows up and sticks the gun out the window of an unmarked car. There are no protections that separate innocent young Black men from the police officers who assume that they're guilty as opposed to innocent and act aggressively and cause them their lives. And the sad thing is, this young man will never be back. He won't go to law school. He won't kiss his daughter on her cheek as he tucks her in at the end of the night. He won't be the world's greatest civil rights lawyer or a prosecutor or a civil defense attorney. His life was taken out and he will never have an opportunity to fulfill his true potential. And it's based upon and rooted in the fact that these cops did a horrible job. They pulled up in an unmarked car and shot this man dead. They gave him the dignity of a drive-by shooting. Who are the thugs here? Who are the real criminals here?
That's right.
Last question. Was his gun tested? Were there any shots fired from that gun?
We don't have
any shell casings recovered. Was an autopsy done on him? Was there any powder burns on his fingers?
So we don't know yet. That's the short answer. We don't know whether or not there's casings. We don't know whether or not there's powder burns on his hands. But at the end of the day, Brother Martin,
there has been an autopsy. Have y'all done an independent autopsy?
the family did do an independent autopsy.
Okay.
They tested for powder burns, and we're waiting for the results of that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, Brother Martin, you have to also remember that even if he did shoot first.
Oh, no. I understand. I totally get that. The only reason I was asking, because if there are no powder burns on his hands and there are no shell casings, what's the lie now?
Right. And if it turns out that these signatures on these two warrants don't match and somebody forged the signature, they didn't have probable cause to be there in the first place.
Gotcha. Absolutely. Taft, certainly keep us abreast of what happened. If there are going to be any public demonstrations, anything like that happening in Houston, please let us know as well so we can stay on top of this case. And certainly give our condolences to Mr. Lockett's family.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And you continue to speak power to justice, and we admire you and we respect you, and you are a great alpha man. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well, there's two other brothers on here as well, so we appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way.
Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on that.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared. You dig?